Thank you for continuing to support Evolving Humans with your subscriptions and your shares. And now, part 2 of my conversation with Tyler Kiwala about the Age of Aquarius. Welcome to Evolving Humans, the podcast for awakening souls. I'm your host, Julia Marie. Settle in and get ready for another spirited conversation. I want to touch on the recent New Jersey drone stories. I think it's interesting that these appearances happened right around the same time that Pluto entered the sign of Aquarius, but I'd like to hear what your thoughts are on the drone sightings.
Yeah, so I could go through and list all the mainstream explanations that we've gotten and say, what could it be? And this we could end it there because that's what most people do when they discuss this. I'm gonna just go straight off the deep end, go
Okay.
totally woo. And I was sent, this door was open when I watched an interview from 1999. This guy was being interviewed, an Area 51 whistleblower, and he was being asked about the UFOs and do we have a space fleet and all the stuff? And he said yes, but the public, this was in 1999. He said yes, but the public won't know about it until 2025. And I'm like, well, how could they know? What's 2025 in 1999? Unless there was some sort of a planetary alignment or something that was going to happen. And what I think is that maybe there was a planetary alignment, and there was because there was an article about it that said some sort of a time tunnel like opened up. Like it was a weird article that came out and then just got swept under the rug, but it was right there in the drones. I'm like, okay, so we have some sort of a dimensional rift that occurred that I think that was inevitable that they knew was coming due to some specific astrological alignment that was literally going to be dimensional doorway where these things were like a gateway or a portal was going to open up, and it was anyone's guess on what was going to come through and show up in our skies. And I think that that's what we saw. I think it was specifically over that area for whatever reason, and these things were either coming in and checking things out. I mean, there's any number of reasons that could happen, right? But I think bottom line is what I'm trying to say is that I think that they knew something like that was going to occur. Something was going to open. There was going to be some sort of a sky event that they didn't have control over, but they knew it somehow involved UFOs, and maybe because they have, Project Looking Glass technology that lets them see into the future. I don't know. But why 2025 from 1999? Like, what's so specific about that unless it's something, some sort of inevitable marker on the grand clock that they just couldn't ignore, right? And what happened? 2025, we have this major UFO flap. And, if you ever want proof or evidence of Operation Mockingbird, the Mockingbird media, why did they call them drone? Why did UFOs go all of a sudden turn into drones? Like, because that was the script. Every one of them. Like, you mean to tell me one of those news networks couldn't just, think on their own and call the UAP or UFO? No, it was a drone all of a sudden. That's because they wanted that narrative out there. Were they drones? Probably not. Maybe in some capacity, we sent up some drones. Who knows? Probably a whole hodgepodge of things was happening in that moment. But I think it was an inevitable dimensional rift, and we had some interdimensional visitors.
If they knew the door was going to open, okay, so let's go check on the progress of the status of our situation. Yeah,
Right.
we'll have a chance to go in there in person and have a look.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
we did interview this guy who he was, a military man, and he said that, they know what they are. And he goes, first of all, there's not a ship that shows up in our sky that isn't approved. He said, there's an air traffic control for space traffic. It's like, we know what's out there, right? And he said, like, you don't get to fly into our airspace without clearance, right? And he said, there are beings from all over the place that are here for the transition of power. And he said that the deep state was negotiating a surrender, and there was something at play that the public had no idea was happening. But all these beings were here, these different ET groups and species, whatever. They were here to witness the transition of power, is what he said. So maybe that was maybe like this could be a multifaceted thing, right? Don't know.
Now I'm going to totally switch gears because another thing that's caught my attention lately, the Pope's in the hospital with pneumonia. And when I first heard it, I had a physical like gut thing happen like, oh, I need to really pay attention to this is not small. So I know you're probably familiar with the Malachi prophecy of the popes, and I'm curious to hear what you might have
Mm.
to say about all of that.
Yeah, so a few different things. Again, I'm gonna go off the deep end here.
Go ahead.
I had this dream like a month ago where I was with three of these Vril Diamond girls, from the Vril Society back in World War One that I was talking about. I was with three of them, and there was also three guys, and like we were on some mission, and it was very crucial that we had a female counterpart. Like it was whatever we were doing, and we were going to the Vatican and visiting the Pope, and we were basically questioning him, interrogating him, and he got super angry with us, and he like basically was like threatening us. You don't want to go there. Don't go there. And he's like, he goes, you know, I have ties to the Andromedan Council, and the Andromedan Council can be good or bad. It's just like humans, whatever. It doesn't mean that, just because they're an ET that they're benevolent. And and he said, you know, I have ties to the Andromedan Council. And then he looked at me, and his eyes like shape shifted into like these reptilian slits. And I woke up and I was like, God, that was weird. Well, one of the girls that I was partnered with is a girl that I know in this life. She is actually claims that she was a real diamond, like in a former life, right? And she has incredible memories to support it. And it sounds like a bold claim. Well, just like a week ago, before the whole Pope stuff came out, she sent me a voice note. And she's like, "Hey, remember that dream you had about the Pope and me and whatever?" I was like, "Yeah." She's like, "I just had another experience. It was so real. I just woke up from it." She goes, "I was talking to the Pope, and he was telling me like there was like two versions of him. One that had been overtaken, like oversold, is the way she put it. Like this, like the real guy was in the back seat, and this like oversold by this demonic entity, essentially." And but she was speaking to like the real the one that won it out, right? And he was telling her, he's like, my life is in danger. He's like, I'm trying to make moves and get out, but I'm fearing for my life. He goes, my life is in danger, or whatever. She just left me this voice note and said, I have a feeling something's going to happen to the Pope. And literally the next day, they announced that he was sick. And I think it was directly related to her dream. And I'm like, oh damn, like so we're talking we don't not everything's black and white. So, we don't these people are groomed into these positions and you don't know what's really going on and if they even want to be there or what the deal is. If they're, blackmailed into those positions, the we all have a pure soul at our core. That doesn't mean that we can't be hijacked, infiltrated, and taken over, especially when you're in a position of power. And we know a lot of the corruption that comes with the Vatican and how they do have satanic ties. I mean, their own telescope is named Lucifer, right? So that's should be a red flag for everyone. But there could be somebody inside that wants out, right? And I think that's the man that she was having a conversation with. And he was telling her in the dream that my life is in danger. And I think that it was because he was probably trying to either get out or expose something or align, whatever the case, we can just speculate. But the next day she woke up and he literally was in the hospital. And now there was like these articles that came out that said he was dead already and then like redacted. It's like, okay, is he dead? Is he not? Like, did they jump ahead? Did the story get leaked early? Either way, I would say that like that they're getting ready to remove that piece from the chessboard. And whatever that means for us in a golden age and our future, I think it probably is going to be. I just think it's an obstacle being removed, and I think that we're in a transition of power in all areas. So the same thing could be happening with the Vatican. And the royal family when these players just disappear or they die or whatever or they transition or move on. I think that it could mean that like it's literal evidence of a reset. Like, okay, out with the old and with the new. So I think we're looking at something like that. Again, it's all really speculation. No one knows what's going on behind those closed doors, but it's really interesting to think about it like that.
The Malachi prophecy from however many hundred years ago is basically he's the last pope.
Yeah, yeah, the last pope.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard that. We've heard the same thing about the Trump being the last president. Right now, whatever is happening, like the last pope, the last president. Why now? It doesn't matter if that's true or not. Those prophecies, they prophesied this time for a reason. And it could be in alignment with what that guy was talking about from Area 51, 2025. I mean, that's when this inauguration happened. That's when this transition of power, whether you like the new administration or not, it really doesn't matter because I think the evidence is clear that we are shifting into something new that we've never, uncharted territory for the entire planet.
Hmm.
And I think it's brilliant. And I'm here for it. And I know that it won't appear I know it appears to be, bad on the surface, but I think things aren't always as they appear.
Well, and that's probably the main reason I wanted to have you on is to put the bad things that are happening into perspective. I mean,
Yeah.
I can share what my framework is, and that is you just you anybody as a light worker, whatever you want to call it, they just need to focus on maintaining their frequency at the highest level that they can and not allow themselves to get caught up in the machinations of whatever's going on around them. Don't be drawn into that because it'll pull you down.
Right. And I mean, they're in place to distract us. Like, if we were to literally research everything that's happening right now, we would be pulled, spread so thin, pulled so many different directions. We couldn't focus on ourselves. And they want that. Even us truthers and like the people, researchers and stuff, I really gotta watch where I'm putting my energy because sometimes if I go too far down a rabbit hole, I'm like, this isn't good for me. And I had to pull back. And then I just had to get to a point where all this incredible breaking news is just coming out every day, and you just have to separate yourself from it. And every once in a while, you will get the nudge to look at something,
Hmm.
and you'll know, okay, there's something in here that like pertains to what I'm doing, and I should pay attention to this, or it pertains to the bigger picture, and that's where I'll put my focus. But you can't be all over that stuff because it will distract you, and it will make you sick. And I mean that, physically sick and ill and energetically just it'll sap you dry because it is, I mean, these are distractions, right? At the end of the day, these are all fabricated political issues that really have nothing to do with the bigger picture. It's all just it's all propaganda to keep us, it's a divide and conquer tactic. And it just further further pushes that narrative and anchors you into that timeline, even though, there is something to some of the things that are happening right now, but you just don't allow it to pull you off course.
And that's the bottom line. We're in this world. We got to be careful not to be of it.
Right.
Thank you so much for sharing all of this. Now, I've asked you all my questions, but I want to give you the opportunity to talk about whatever you believe is most important to highlight about this transition we're in the middle of. What do you want the listeners to take away from our conversation today?
I just want, like, okay, I can't stress enough that you just have to let go of everything that you thought you knew. And every time I think I have it figured out, something happens that proves me wrong. And you have to really let go of that and disconnect yourself from these beliefs, right? And I kind of said this earlier, but it's so important moving forward. Don't marry yourself. Don't give your power away to any external source or force. Don't give your power away anywhere. And believing in something so strongly when you really don't know why you're even believing in it. Because we want to feel like we have purpose. So we find something that aligns with our current belief system or even our belief system that we were born into. And it might not even be true, but it's familiar. And you can actually remain stagnant by placing yourself in those belief systems. And I think, it was described by a beautiful whistleblower, Max Spears. He transitioned, unfortunately. He was the same thing, one of the guys that was killed talking about this stuff. But he said, imagine the planet is surrounded by all these rings, like Saturn, but just millions of them, right? Like a grid, and like a matrix, a network. And he said each ring is a belief system that keeps you locked into the matrix. And he said that they don't care which one that you believe in, as long as you believe in one of them, then you're locked in. So if you can somehow figure out a way to just separate yourself from all of that, even though you want to believe in something so bad, which we all believe in stuff, right? And it's not necessarily a bad thing at its core. But when you're giving your power away to a belief system and letting it identify who you are, then that could actually be a trap. And when you find yourself arguing with people about what you believe in, then it is a trap because it's literally designed that way. And every belief, really, every religion, everything is really a stepping stone, like I said. And not knocking any of it because there is many brilliant teachings in all the religions and belief systems are beautiful and they all like serve their purpose. But it's a stepping stone. You don't have to get hung up there. And like you realize that like this is a multidimensional reality with infinite possibilities. And you don't have to stay confined to this box that you've been told is the only way that it can be. And I think that's the most important thing is just to like somehow navigate your life to be open-minded enough to accept even the stuff that would have once triggered you to your core and at least entertain it and say, okay, maybe there's something to that. Maybe I don't know. And then you have to ask yourself, I do this all the time. I'm like, why do I even think that I know that? Like I have like why do I think that I know that? Like who am I, right? From our little limited 3D perspective, versions of ourselves, like how could I even think that I understand the big picture and that I know it all? I'm always willing to be wrong, and I entertain stuff that really I didn't want to believe in before because it would just challenge everything that I thought I knew. And now I entertain it. I'm like, you know what? I have to admit, like I have to have the humility to self-correct. I'm like, I might have been wrong, you know? There could be something to this stuff, and that's how we start to begin. I think we begin to understand that it's all possible. Like, in effect, I think it's all real in some level, in some form, somewhere out there. There's a version of us doing something, whatever. We can go on and on, but I think it's all real. It all exists. And it's just a matter of letting go and understanding that there's no wrong or right way to do it. You just have to like stay in your lane and do what serves you and then just stay in your highest timeline.
That's a great way to put it. They first told me that my little mind cannot comprehend the intricate workings of the universe, no matter how hard I would want to try. Basically, they encouraged me not to try and figure it all out using my human brain. I'm not going to understand it anyway, so I don't bother trying to figure it out. I've got to stay open to the possibility of whatever it is that's coming at me, that's being served up to me.
Right. And I think you just have to apply love to everything that you see. I mean, because your brain wants to make it make sense logically, and actually, you'll just run in,
Spin.
you'll spin in
Yep.
circles doing that because a lot of stuff doesn't make sense logically. But your heart knows, your mind, part of your mind knows, but your brain, your logical brain, that's really just there to get you from point A to point B, right? It's like your motor functions, right? Um, but really, if you apply love to everything that you're seeing, like, and like, what does my heart tell me about this? And you'll get that intuitive hit if something feels off, because a lot of time there is deception out there, and you'll be able to know because your body will tell you. But if you start thinking about it, your mind will trick you into believing something else that isn't true because you want to believe it or because everyone else is believing it, and whatever the case may be. But your heart always knows, your gut always knows. So I think you just navigate life that way.
Good point. Well, we're at the end of our time together, but before we close, I know you're busy getting ready for your next conference in Grafton, Illinois. Please tell the people about it.
Yeah. So uh, journeytotruth.online that has everything we do. It's all under one roof now, where you can find our event coming up in May 12th through the 15th in Grafton, Illinois. You're going to be a vendor there, as always, and you're going to be doing some fantastic readings. but it's a fun event. It's 4 days in a beautiful resort, Pure Marquette Lodge and Conference Center, and it's just kind of out in nature, and it's right in springtime. We always have a blast, and we have basically what we do is we take all of our favorite guests that we have on the podcast, and we ask them to come speak at our event, and we create an event where they get to present, and we have 13 speakers this year, and we do bonfires every night, sky watches. We hang out. We go to the Cahokia Mounds afterwards, which is an amazing site, which we have a documentary on that, which is available on our website as well. But if you're interested in coming out, we have 4 day passes, 1 day passes, live stream passes, like a virtual pass if you can't make it in person. It's all available. We've thought of it all. So journeytotruth.online has all that information. And if you get a 4 day pass, it comes with a free t-shirt.
Well, I want to thank you for showing up today and for sharing your perspective with all of us. And I look forward to another conversation someday.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. I didn't know what to expect, but I enjoyed it. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, that's our time for today. If you need clarity about a current life situation, are in need of energy healing, or want to reconnect with your loved ones living on the other side of life, please go to juliamarie.us and click the Book Now button on the homepage to schedule some time with me. And now, here's a quote for you to ponder as you go about your day. You are the one creating a dystopian future, or you're the one creating a golden age. Tyler Kiwala.